White Rabbit is the main antagonist of Devil May Cry anime on Netflix, and honestly, he's a pretty solid villain, no doubt. His actions throughout the show are driven by a motivation that is almost justifiable. He's not evil for the sake of being evil, which makes him all the more compelling. Now, I get that some fans of DMC franchise aren't exactly thrilled with this Netflix adaptation, and that is fair, but personally, I'll give the show a 10. At least when it comes to the characters, I thought the characters' developments were strong, and that is what kept me engaged, if I'm being honest. Outside of that though, I can't really say anything else in this show deserves a perfect score from me. Definitely not the animation. It had that typical Netflixified look. Nothing that really stood out, you know. Honestly, it looked like every other animated show you can see on the platform, especially with having White Rabbit transform into a beast in the ending. That part gave me a major Tomb Raider vibes, and yeah, it wasn't okay. But anyways, that is not what we're here to focus on. Let's get into the real topic of this video. White Rabbit, like I said earlier, is a character that gave me a fresh perspective to what makes a villain. Most of the times, villains are driven by the usual greed, a thirst for power, or just the typical evil for the sake of evil mindset. But with White Rabbit, it felt different. His motivations were clear and deeply personal. From his perspective, I could genuinely understand why he chose the path he did. He lost that one thing that gave his life meaning: his newfound family among the Macayan demons. You know, that sense of joy, belonging, and purpose, he just lost it in the twinkle of an eye. What made it even more painful was how it all unfolded. Just when he was on the verge of saving the demons from the oppression and the toxic environments of their world, everything fell apart. Instead of leading them to freedom, he unknowingly led them to their deaths, all because of Darkom's ignorance. That was crazy. Right from when White Rabbit was a small boy, he never knew what it felt like to be loved by a family. He never felt accepted, never felt like he belonged, until he found himself in the demon realm. And for the first time in his life, he was shown what love, friendship, and true belonging looked like. The demons were the first beings that accepted him truly and, treat him like one of their own. It was something he had never experienced in the human world. The episode that reviewed his backstory genuinely got to me. Watching it unfold, you see a child who had given up on ever experiencing love or happiness, only to find both in the most unexpected place, among creatures humans would call monsters. But it was the monsters, not his fellow humans, who welcomed and cared for him. It's really telling how cruel people can be to their own kind without even realizing it. As a boy, White Rabbit was placed in a foster home where he was treated horribly. There, he faced constant neglect and abuse, not just from the foster parents but also from other kids. No one showed him care or kindness. He was bullied and emotionally isolated throughout his stay at the foster home. One of the most heartbreaking scenes for me was when he begged the social worker that brought him to the foster home to take him out of that home, only to be completely ignored. That was wild because you can't even blame the social worker. I mean, he was doing his job. Another moment that really stuck with me was during a dinner. One of his foster siblings, who's already with food on his plate, reached over and took something off Rabbit's plate just to mess with him. That distracted White Rabbit, and then he accidentally spilled his cup of water during the whole chaos. But before he could even explain, he was met with a hard slap from the foster parents. It's crazy because as this was going on, the foster parents paid them no mind. They did not care but was quick to punish him. This just goes to show how unbearable his life must have been in that foster home. This was the situation White Rabbit was facing as a boy. Then, in the midst of all that pain, a portal opened near him and he decided to walk through it. Given that Alice in Wonderland is like his favorite book as a child, he was always seen holding the book. And there's a similar action of a rabbit passing through a portal in the book. That made him follow the steps. But little did he know that he was walking into an adventure that would change his life forever. Crossing into the demon realm was terrifying at first for White Rabbit because he was nearly eaten by a beast and he could barely breathe the air at first. But then a young Macayan demon saved him and brought him to their family. And just like that, he was accepted. He found a place where he was wanted, a place where he was loved. And from that point on, we saw White Rabbit transform. He came alive, he learned, he grew, and he discovered potential in himself that he never knew existed. It really made me realize how sometimes we don't thrive because we are simply surrounded by the wrong people, but with the right ones you can become something greater than you ever imagined. I think this is a wake-up call for you to change that location today, guys. Yeah. Well, eventually, tragedy struck White Rabbit. One of his closest demon friends died from the toxic air in their realm. That loss pushed White Rabbit to act. He became determined to save his new family from that predicament. So he now decided to use gemstones to engineer a device that could open portals to the human world. And that gave the demons the chance to escape their poisoned realm. But when the demons crossed over to the human world, they encountered Darkcom units. And instead of helping, Darkcom attacked and ended up wiping out every demon that made it through. That broke White Rabbit, and it broke me as well because the sequence of this action is crazy. It broke White Rabbit to the point that he almost went insane. That laugh was not a laugh of joy. It was a kind of laugh that comes from total despair. A laugh of someone who gave everything and lost everything. Years of hard work to save the demons, everything gone just like that. I don't know how you would feel if you were White Rabbit, but this was beyond crazy to me. And from that moment, White Rabbit now vowed to destroy Darkcom. He decided to conceal his identity and blend in with other demons to do that. So he crafted a rabbit-themed mask and literally sewed it into his face. He even implanted an artificial heart that pumped demons' blood through his body, which gave him enhanced strength and physical abilities. He did all this just so he could take revenge on Darkcom without being noticed, because it was believed that no one survived that massacre. Honestly, this was what made me want to at least partially understand White Rabbit's actions. No one could go through what he did and come out on the other side without being deeply broken. And even if they survived, who could honestly forgive and forget like it never happened? The White Rabbit in particular never received kindness or love from humans for him to even consider forgiving them for what they did, only for them to also, on top of that, ultimately destroy the family that has shown him care and support all through his life. So when you look at this, you really consider the weight of everything he endured. It's easier to see why he did what he did. But then I can't completely excuse his actions because his revenge became reckless and spiraled out of control to the point that he didn't care about the innocent lives anymore. His desire to break down the barrier between human world and the demon realm became incredibly selfish. So yeah, he definitely crossed the line with that one. Because of that, his actions can no longer be justified. Now let's talk about White Rabbit's personality, which is arguably one of the strongest elements that made him stand out. White Rabbit is a relentless, driven individual who doesn't back down when he sets his mind on something. Take the portal device for example. He created a machine capable of opening gateways between the demon realm and the human world, just because he was determined to save his demon friends from the toxic air and the brutal condition of their world. That level of focus and commitment is remarkable to me. When Darkcom slaughtered the very people he was trying to protect, he made a vow to get revenge, and he followed through. He took down every member of the Darkcom in some of the most brutal ways imaginable. I'm sorry to say, but it was fun to watch as well. Like, the creativity of how he took out all of them was fun to me. That tenacity is unmatched. But what really adds more depth to White Rabbit's character for me is his kindness. It takes a truly compassionate person to risk everything to help others, especially when there is nothing in it for them. White Rabbit's mission to save the demons wasn't born out of selfish ambition. It came from a place of genuine care. That is a trait I found compelling, especially for someone like him. He saw the level of atrocity and the bad air in the demon realm. It really pushed him to the point that he decided to engineer a device that can open a portal. If that is not peak kindness, I don't know what is. White Rabbit was also a natural leader. In the demon realm, he quickly became someone others looked up to. The demons trusted his judgment and followed his lead without hesitation. Even back on Earth, he commanded a gang of rogue demons who obeyed him and showed him respect. Whether in a peaceful or chaotic setting, White Rabbit had that kind of presence that made people rally behind him. That is the quality personality. Another thing I really liked about White Rabbit was his appearance and overall aesthetics. He's a tall, slim, gentle man dressed in a sleek black suit with a white cravat and a monocle over one of his eyes. His red-orange eyes pop as well. It added this sharp contrast that makes his face look more intense. The whole look just gives off a classic vibe that I like so much. But the real standout is the large rabbit marks sewn directly to his face, which he uses to fully disguise himself as a demon. When I found out that marks wasn't just one, but actually stitched to his skin, it caught me off guard for real, because the level of pain, dedication, and obsession that must have taken is wild. I mean, he could have easily just worn a mask and called it a day, but no, he made it a part of his identity. That kind of commitment made his character even more fascinating for me. And under that mask, his human appearance is just as striking. Long black hair, a face scarred from his past encounters with the Darkcom, and a chest with an artificial heart that is connected to tubes that pumps demon blood through his body. Visually, White Rabbit just looks perfect to me. White Rabbit's abilities are even as impressive as his looks. After consuming a demon called Bloodstrike and absorbing more of his blood, White Rabbit transformed into a massive red monster-like demon. I'll be honest though, I wasn't a fan of that transformation because it reminded me so much of Tomb Raider in regards of Charles Devereaux, and I'm honestly tired of Netflix villains turning into these oversized monstrous final bosses. It's starting to feel a little too predictable, and I think it's time for Netflix to be more creative with its villains, because the fuck. That said though, the demon blood did give White Rabbit some serious powers. His strength became superhuman. He could take down armed human soldiers in hand-to-hand combat with ease. He was practically immune to pain. He could walk through fire without flinching, which made me wonder if he's fireproofed in his debut scene. In his red demon form, bullets couldn't pierce through his body. He was completely bulletproof, and he was also bulletproof in his normal human body because we saw a bullet pierce through his skin and he immediately healed. So the demon blood also gave him fast healing. But what I really appreciated was his swordmanship. The way he fought with a blade and that purple energy beam he could emit was actually pretty cool. I just wish they had leaned more into that and less into the giant monster trope. But oh well, we got what we got. This is Netflix for you. White Rabbit was just a solid villain overall, but personally I think his plan to destroy the barrier between the human world and Makai, the demon realm, felt a bit over the top and corny to me, because why do you want the demons and humans to coexist? Like, it doesn't make sense from my view, but I guess that is what makes him a villain. What really made him compelling wasn't just the world-ending plot. His experiences with Darkcom gave him depth and relatability that I almost justified his actions. Almost. If you made it to this level of the video, you are the real MVP. I really appreciate you watching the video. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. What do you think of White Rabbit as an antagonist? Do you agree that his actions were nearly justifiable? Let me know in the comments. I'll see you guys in my next video. I'm out of here.